Welcome to Connect with Carla B. I gotta tell y'all, I'm sitting here at a little coffee shop in back outside of a small shed with double doors, a little overhang roof, has railings and a small table. And I'm eating, everybody knows I love pastries, but this pastry is exceptional. It's half eaten already, and I'm having some chai latte. So, and I'm wearing my cowgirl boots. Like if you needed all of that. But I don't know. Everybody wants photos of everything. Isn't it better to just paint a picture and help you use your mind? So I'm sitting with what feels like a girlfriend for forever, ever. But probably one of my newer connections. So a powerful sister, really powerful, like spiritually powerful, moving through life in a gifted way. And her name is Miss Sandra Braham. So here's what I'm going to say is I'm going to ask you to introduce yourself in the way that, so if Jesus of Nazareth was here to make the introduction to who you are, what would you want us to know about you?
Wow. I love that. I have never been asked. Well, let's see. If Jesus of Nazareth were here to introduce me,
yes,
he would say, first of all, this is my child. This is my rebellious child occasionally, but my faithful child. And she listens to me. And she acts on what I direct her to do.
Okay.
She is rich in spirit, rich in heart, and she is becoming.
And then I would add that she is a wife who has found her life partner. I would add that she is a mother to many and a woman that carries a great deal of responsibility for this community that I'm a part of. So digging right in on how, like, it does baffle me, but it speaks to the power of who you are. How is it that a Black woman is heading this Jewish? I told y'all, I'm gonna take liberty to use the word. She's badass. So how is this Black woman heading the president and CEO of this extremely large Jewish nonprofit?
You know, Carla,
are you Jewish?
I'm not Jewish.
Here we go, right there.
I'm not Jewish. I love the Lord, but I am obedient. And I've learned through the years of my life and the struggles of my life to listen and to try to hear what God is telling me. And I'm a woman of strong faith. I'm not a fanatic. I'm not someone who will beat you over the head with, Christianity or the Bible. But I am, I'm fanatically faithful. And so that's a more internal thing. And so when it was time for me to change careers, and I say when it was time, because I will go through a period in my heart where I'm like, I'm ready. And the last time when I said I was ready, I had been at my organization for 7 years. 7 is big in my life.
Okay.
That's also a big, important number in biblical history. But 7 years, I was ready to change. And I spoke to a friend who happened to be Jewish.
Mm-hmm.
And she said, Sandra, you might be ready, but is your organization ready for you to go?
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, wow.
Wow.
And I said, and that actually came after I had apologized to God, because it was so clear that God sent me to that place.
Right.
And I said, Lord, I'm ready, but I know that you sent me here, and I apologize for not being grateful for where I am right now. If it is not time for me to go, then please give me a renewed spirit. That was my prayer.
Oh, wow.
So I went to my girlfriend and we were chatting, and then she said, is your organization ready for you to go? And that was the renewed spirit. It was like, I've got to get this organization ready for me to go. So the next 2+ years flew by. I began to pray the prayer of Jabez, which I always pray only when I'm ready for change in my career. I pray that prayer. Oh, that you would bless me indeed, that you will enlarge my territory, that your hand will be with me and you keep me from evil. And it happens quick.
Oh, wow.
And so when you pray that prayer and you're serious about it, you better be ready.
It's so, I say that if you are connected in that way, they say be careful what you pray for, but just if you're praying, just know that the answer will come, whether you're prepared for the answer or you understand the answer. That's not it. It's just the answer. For me, that has been the case. So I am very careful how I pray. Because the corporate lady became the art lady, is now the farmer. So you gotta look.
That's right.
But the thing is if I look all the way back, it's centered around a lot of the same things. So you kept preparing the organization that you were
for
with and sitting
leave.
And being grateful where you were.
And then the next thing is that when you are depending on God to truly lead you to your next place, you have to be obedient. And so someone asked me to apply for a local job in Texas where I was living. And I was like, I don't want to apply for that job. That's kind of weird. This is interesting. And I don't know if that is. But then it was like, apply for the job, because you don't know where it's going to be. If it's for you, you will have it.
Right.
But you need to be obedient.
Right.
When people encourage you to do things from a good place.
Right.
Be obedient. Do that. So I applied for the job. And then a few months passed. I told the pastor of my church about it. And the week before the week of Thanksgiving, after church, I went to see the pastor. He said, hey, Sandra, how was your job interview? I said, Pastor, I don't think I'm going to get that job. I think they're interviewing internal candidates. And he stomped his foot, pointed in my face, and looked me in the eye and said, well, you're getting one.
Wow. And
it was so odd. I looked him in the face and I said, Pastor, from your mouth to God's ears. And I pointed up.
Right.
That Thursday, I received a letter from a search firm. We're looking for the next CEO for Gulf Coast, Jewish Family Community Services. And
so you weren't even here?
No, I had never even heard of this place. Never thought about moving to Florida. And I get this email addressed to me. We're looking, and I read the job description. I said, boy, this sounds just like what I'm doing now.
Right.
And then I thought, but I'm not Jewish.
Right.
They're not going to hire me.
Right.
But something said, email it home. You're at work. So I sent it home.
Yes.
That was Thursday. That Friday, I went home after work, opened up my email. I had an email from the company that I'd applied for locally saying, oh, we're going with internal candidates, blah, blah, blah. I was like, no surprise. I didn't think it was for me.
Right.
But then I was like, but the pastor said I was getting an interview.
Wow.
And because I believe, because of that deep faith, it forced me to open up that email and begin to research Gulf Coast Jewish Family and Community Services. And the more I researched about this organization, I said, wow, they're helping kids in foster care. I was in foster care. They're helping people with mental health. My mother had schizophrenia. They're working with refugees. They're working with Holocaust survivors. This is a real organization doing amazing work, but they've had trauma on both ends. Within a 5-year period, they'd had 2 CEOs that tragically died, and they had about 4 people sit in that seat in that 5-year period for others on an interim, on a permanent basis, and they had this turnover. But I learned enough that it forced me to contact the search firm. I said, sure, I'll have a conversation with you. 3 weeks later, I was interviewing for the job. They called me back. 3 more weeks later, I flew in for another interview. And 2 weeks after that, I had an offer.
Wow.
And
what year was that?
2016.
So 2016.
So I moved here in March of 2016.
7 years ago.
7 years.
So 7, there's your number.
Yeah.
Does that mean change is coming?
Well, let me tell you, I will just say this, that there were some interesting things that happened about this 7.
Okay.
And I will just say that what has happened in this 7-year season is that God affirmed that I'm exactly where I'm supposed to be. This is exactly where I am needed. And this organization is where I will continue to do my work until he says differently. So this 7 years has affirmed, not that it's time to go, but it is time to continue.
You know, we got to check in.
Yep.
We got to check.
Yeah.
Also, I know that you were, I don't think you still are, the chair of the Chamber of Commerce for St. Petersburg Chamber of Commerce. Were you the first African American woman to?
And interestingly enough, not only was I the first woman, the first African American woman, I ended up going in 6 months early to finish an unexpired term because the chair took a job in California. So I started 6 months early, and I served then for 18 months as chair of the chamber, the St. Petersburg Area Chamber of Commerce Board. I am currently the past chair this year. And so while I'm sitting a little bit, it's still keeping me pretty busy.
Wow. Because that, I just remember everybody's like, you got to meet this woman. You have to meet this woman. They're like, you don't know her? I'm like, I don't know her. They're like, which leads me to, everybody knows I don't have the best memory. I hate to speak it often as I do. Or I have a very selective memory. Let me just say that. That's true, because there's some things, like I always say, I know everybody who's calling me and I know why they're calling me. So it makes me wonder if you recall how we first connected. When did you first ever connect with me?
I believe the first time I connected with you, I want to say it was either through an event at the Foundation for a Healthy St. Petersburg. Maybe, I don't think it was Courageous Conversations.
I know which one you're thinking about. I think we first connected when I had the pop-up inside the factory when the chamber had the events there, and then you purchased some items. That was it.
Oh my goodness. And that's funny. I was looking at that piece this morning and I started to, why didn't I wear it?
Which would be so hot on that black and white.
Yes. I started to wear, and I was like, well, I'll just do, this here little thing and move on, But it was meant for me to wear that today.
So my goodness. I think that was it, because
I feel like we've known each other so much longer.
Because I felt like before that, it was either Terry Lipsy Scott or somebody was like, "What do you mean you don't know her? You need to know her." And
I feel like we've been connected for much longer. Than that.
Yeah. For reals, as they say.
Yeah.
For reals. And then, you have written a book.
Yeah.
And so people don't know it or realize it. I live in a place of humility all the time. because I'm always, things happen to me because I'm exceptional. So they're all supposed to happen to me. If the sun shine brighter, it's because God made the sun shine brighter, because Carla Bristol needed a brighter sunshine. I'm just telling you. I'm just telling you that's how my mind works. That's how my world occurs. So you wrote a book, and then you reached out to me and you said, hey, I want to share this space with you. And I was so humbled because, like, that's your baby. This is your moment. And it speaks to who you must be as a human being, that in that moment when you could just bask in it, you still had your priorities straight. And your priority is still centered around ensuring that kids in our community, in every community, have access to people who care. And you reminded me how important the work that I'm doing is. So tell us about that journey of being able to be vulnerable enough to share your story, not just for an interview, but for the world. Because now it's published. You can go on Amazon and get a copy, y'all. $29.95.
So, the book, An Angel for Detroit. You know, I think I always tell people that this book is not about me. And they're like, well, how can it not be about you? It's your memoir. And I'm like, it's not about me. It's for a greater purpose. The greater purpose of that book is to really touch the hearts of people. And I even the book cover, of the book is designed to be attractive to a younger, more gritty audience, someone who might not normally pick up a book off of a bookshelf, because it's a story of just a very difficult life, but a very blessed life, a very humbling life, a life where adults sowed so much into me as a young person, as a child, as a teen, as a kid in foster care, as someone who lived with a mother who she passed away during COVID, schizophrenia. So that book is really designed to inspire young people, older people, anyone, for the younger generation, that wherever you are, if you show that you have a dream and a vision and you're about trying to get there, people will show up and they will help you to cross that bridge. They will show you the way, they will provide you resources, but you've got to get out of bed every day and you've got to be about it, doing that positive thing. I believe that people and God will send people there. And so the book is a journey through my life.
Who's the angel?
That's interesting. I will just share this one story. I don't want to totally spoil the book, but it's important, I think, for people to say, wow, I do need to get that book. Right. Because these angels are real. Yep. They are real. And when I was 4 years old, my mother packed us up and we went to Detroit, Michigan on a Greyhound bus one way.
From where?
From St. Louis.
Okay.
A little town called Kinloch, which was at one point one of the largest black cities.
Oh, wow.
West of the Mississippi. Mayor was black all the way down. Police chief, postmaster, doctors, all the schools. But that's where I grew up. And a lot of famous people came out of Kinloch, just a little teeny town in St. Louis. So she packed us up, got us Greyhound bus tickets, got to Detroit.
How many us's?
Me, I have an older sister and a younger sister by my mom. I have
3 girls.
Had 6 other siblings by my father that we all kind of grew up together, but in different households. Okay. But we went to Detroit, and I asked her, well, why are we going to Detroit? She said, because Stevie Wonder sent for me. And I was like, wow, Stevie Wonder. I mean, I knew who Stevie Wonder was even at 4 years old.
Wow.
And so we got to Detroit, and the long end of it is that, Stevie Wonder didn't send for us.
Right.
But my mother was not herself, and I didn't
Right.
understand she was mentally ill at the time.
Mm-hmm.
And one night she sent me and my sister out. I was 4 years old and she was 6. After 10 o'clock, we didn't know where we lived. We didn't know the address because we were never allowed outside. It was so dangerous in the 60s in Detroit.
Wow.
And she smoked during that time, though she wasn't a smoker. So this was a different person.
Oh, wow.
Sent us out for cigarettes, 10 o'clock at night. The one store we knew on the corner was closed. So we began to wander and try to figure out, where we're going to get the cigarettes. Found a store that was open, got the cigarettes, and realized we were lost. Had no idea where we lived, where we turned.
Wow.
And just 2 little girls lost in Detroit.
Wow.
After 10 o'clock at night. And there was a crowd on the corner that was, around a fire protesting or something was really deep during those days. And I told my sister, I was like, well, maybe if we cross the street, somebody can help us.
Right.
So we crossed the street, and this tall white man just was there. Mm-hmm. And he said, are you girls lost? And we said, yeah. He says, well, where do you live? Well, we don't know.
Right.
Just, we live in this old building, and he said, come on, let me take you home. And we walked and talked, got to the front of our building. He said, is this where you live? Mm-hmm. Yes. Go on upstairs, your mother's waiting. That was it.
Oh, wow.
Never went upstairs, never went to meet our mother.
Wow.
That was it. And it's like I came to understand that to be an angel. And the more that I've read about Detroit, there's a church there. I think it's a Catholic church that and I forget the name of the saint that's there, but it's about these sorts of angelic experiences in Detroit. And, and there's a lot of stuff about angels in Detroit, in Detroit. And that's so interesting. I've only learned that since I've written the book.
Oh, wow.
But that's where the title comes from. And just this knowledge that I have that these angels, and everyone may not be an angel like in this sort of spirit world. I mean, you're an angel.
Yes.
These angels enter your life for a purpose.
Do you know I call every single young person I work with an angel? That's what I call them.
That's purpose. That's purpose.
Yeah, and what's funny is they own it. So the first group I worked with, when they realize I'm calling them angels, now a second group gets added. The first group is, no, we're her angels. You're not. I'm like, I didn't even know you, and I was calling you an angel. How could they not be? But they owned it because, again, the idea of positive connotation and injecting positivity into our kids is so critical for what they believe about themselves. The other thing you made me think about is this idea, like I talk about all the time, celebrate in the valley. We struggle to celebrate in the valley. Most of us are waiting for the hilltop. And there's so much. Remember, the hilltop is not where the water is collecting. It is flowing down. So it's okay to celebrate in the valley, meaning wherever you are is a good place. I know there's good in the place that you're at. And if you're not sure of it, visit me. I'll help you find it. It's there. But sometimes it's the lens. Sometimes we need to clean it. I've had to clean my camera lens to get better photos. Same thing. Clean your lens, shift your gaze, and you'll realize that where you're supposed to be right now.
Temporary situations that blind us, that make us think that there's nowhere out, there's nowhere for us to go. This is it for us, and it's like those are the moments that build your future. It's like you've got to get up and pull yourself up in order to keep moving forward, because all of those experiences are going to shape this wonderful, incredible human being that you will be 20, 30, 40, 50 years later. And you're going to look back and realize if it hadn't been for that experience, for this experience, and my darkest time,
Right.
Living in, a rat infested, horrible situation in Detroit that we lived in. Sheer abject neglect and poverty.
Wow.
To look back on that today,
right,
nobody would think, wow, she had that kind of life.
Right.
But imagine had I quit at 16,
right,
when I thought there's no way after foster care. Where do I go from here? I mean, gosh, the lives that we impact today because of those experiences. That's what you're working for, and that's what you're living for. We weren't promised a perfect, easy life. It's the struggle, that makes you, makes you able to grind, right? As an adult and give it back.
It's the stuff we get to grow through. Talk, like I know about CALL and the CALL program and this inaugural opportunity that happened here in St. Pete, resulting from the calls for change through 2020. But you're the woman sitting over all of that. Tell us about CALL and what it means for Gulf Coast Jewish and Family Services to be driving the ship on the CALL, and tell people what it is.
So CALL is I guess some call them mobile response teams. That may understate a little bit what they do, but the acronym is Community Assistance and Life Liaison. And that's intentional because you make a call to 911. And many times, you call 911, the police have to respond.
Right.
But if police are responding to domestic situations where mental health is involved, or just, a neighborly dispute that's not violent, but just you need somebody to come and help figure things out. Maybe they call because they found somebody sitting on the side of the road and they're concerned. So these navigators who are everyday people, your neighbors, people who live in the community, most of them respond to these nonviolent 911 calls. And the goal is to respond and find out what's going on and help you resolve the issue. Sometimes, people are quick to be Baker acted in the Black community, especially. Or we've lost Black people to gun wounds because of reactiveness on the part.
I was gonna make the distinction of you're using the word respond, and most people react. Right. And when you're untrained, when that is not the work you do, how you approach something, 9 out of 10 comes from a reactionary place, and reacting really in most cases leads to regret. Whereas responding is a more careful approach. I was talking to Nadine Smith, and she was recalling how in the middle of all the protests, she said, I just remember this specific instance where everybody's on one side protesting, all the anti-protesters had come, and there you are talking to one of them, and everybody's trying to figure out, is Carla going to be safe? Why is Carla talking to these people? And I'm simply asking the man, help me understand what brought you to our city today. Where are you coming to us from? And he said, I'm here from Brooksville because you guys are burning the city. And I looked at him and said, I could tell you in this exact voice, well, I've been marching for the better part of over 100 days. And that's just not what's happening in St. Petersburg. Do you see the police around? We're working with the police. They're here for us. And he was blown away. I'm like, do you have a family? And then he realized I could be home with my family. I left my family to come here to do this. And but had I not engage in a respectful way. I just really genuinely wanted, because they were spewing such hate, and I knew it wasn't in me, but it was at something they believed. And I wanted to understand where the belief came from.
Interesting.
And the minute they realized, first of all, like, I am a 50, at that point, 50 something still year old woman, and I'm here and I have children, and here is why I'm here. Right? And so when we're able to listen and agree, so I usually start with the simplest agreement. Can we agree that the sky right now has gray clouds? And if somebody says, no, those clouds are green, I'll say, have a good day. Thank you so much. Because
we're not going to agree.
If we can't agree on some baseline stuff, it's going to be difficult for us to agree, or at least hear each other as we try to communicate. So I personally don't have the type of fear that I think some people walk around with, because I have a level of protection that I feel.
Amen.
And it's how I'm able to move how I move. And it's not just because I was raised in Brooklyn either. So the thing that I keep thinking about, because you have so much responsibility, is if we gave you a few more hours in the day, how would you spend? What is the thing that you enjoy doing that allows you to either relax, be more creative, but like take that time for yourself? The exhales. How do you do it?
This is new since I've come to Florida.
Okay. And
for about maybe 5.5 years, 6 years, I've been golfing.
What?
I took up golf because listen,
girl, you're a president and CEO. You have to play. You have to play golf.
I never knew that golf was for me.
Really?
Until I saw a group of Black women who looked like me, who had thick hips and, swinging that club. And I was like, oh my goodness, who are these women? Women of color golf. Women of color golf. Well, let me go take a class. But what I found is when I took those classes out to the course, to the greens, I was transformed.
Okay.
It's the one place that I don't think about work. I don't think about problems. I don't think about anything. You hear nature. You see, wildlife and birds.
Vast greens.
And you've got the breeze. And all you're thinking about is that little ball. And it's a privilege to be able to golf. So I love golf. If I had three more hours in a day,
you would golf.
I would golf.
Wow.
Yes. I try to do it every weekend. I try to find that space.
For those of you who know, my background is in global sales. So you got to know that a lot of customers wanted to go play golf. And although I look athletic, all I can tell y'all is for the better part of most of the golf games, I was using a right-handed club, but I'm left-handed. So let's start there. We'll start there and move on down. So I'm glad you used the word, like, go get trained, take some classes, and maybe it will feel different.
Yeah.
Because I kept saying sooner or later I'm gonna have to pick it back up.
And I've got a badass left-hand golfing girl that would love to go out with you.
Really?
Yes.
Do you play chess?
I do play chess. Yes.
See, so I'm planning to incorporate some major chess at the farm. We incorporated during our 4th birthday, and it was interesting how many young people just sat down, and I only had 2 sets. I'm planning to amplify that to like 10 or more. And start inviting people to come play. And I was explaining to the kids the relatability of chess to life, and the strategies on a chessboard, and the thinking that has to be involved, and how I pay for careless mistakes when I play chess. But I had to learn how to play chess as a teenager.
Mm-hmm.
So chess, tennis, and golf is what I was told would allow me to move through different spaces.
Yeah, it's
And
really pretty something else.
We don't offer that in an insistent way to our young people. And I think it's something that we could, because I just remember how it would surprise people. You know, I've been so many places, and if I say, oh, yeah, let's play chess, and they're like, you play? And then you sit down, and I know the more I focus, the better my game is. So we have to give that to our young people. But before we got on here, we were talking about if we want to talk about a real pandemic, we'd be talking about mental health in our community, and how it's ravishing our community, and how, it's one of the things that I observed early working with kids, and needing to find a way to do more. Like, we have to create these think tanks among leaders to say, how much of it is being discussed in church? How much of it is being discussed? Well, we can't even say school. We can't even use the word school in anything these days.
Lord.
You go down a rabbit hole right there in Florida. But I'm grateful for this time that we were able to spend together with each other. And we have to do it more often. We need to spend time together more often, because I could see how this goes with that whole iron sharpens iron. And for the betterment of our community, and the whole idea of leaving things better than you found them. Even if you leaving, just leave it better than you found it. Straighten it up before you leave. Make that something that you walk with. What advice would you have? If you had to give some advice.
I gotta give some advice. Well,
you do it all the time, naturally.
Yeah, I do. Now you're making me think about it. I would just say, don't forget. I don't know where that came from, but sometimes things just land on my heart, and so that's what I'm coming up with. This advice is, don't forget. Don't forget the people who gave you a hand. Don't forget to say thank you. Don't forget to hug your loved ones before you leave in the morning. Don't forget, to bring people forward with you. Don't forget to honor, your ancestors. Don't forget, that forgiveness is the key, to a strong, healthy life.
For yourself, grace. Grace. Yep. So we had a bite on a plate, but I hope the information we provided you, just you being able to ear hustle, allowed you to have a few bits and bites that you can chew on until we connect next time.